Hey folks, what's going on? It's Davin from Smart Simple Fit. Today, I'm going to be talking about why total effort is the main driver of progress in your exercise program. Okay, so I'm feeling inspired to make this video after watching a great video by someone I know, Sam from Shethar Training. Sam's video was talking about the trap of volume, especially for beginner and intermediate lifters, how pursuing high amounts of volume in particular can be a trap. But also at the same time, it can be true in reverse. People can have too low of a volume. So on that note, I'd like to discuss what my thoughts are on the whole subject of volume versus proximity to failure versus frequency, right? People will look for answers online about precise prescriptions, down to the number, perhaps a range. What they want is a perfect prescription of an isolated variable from a system of variables, right? Training necessitates that you have a system made up of a plethora of variables. And no matter who you are, no matter what your goals are or how long you're training, it can be said without any question, unequivocally, everyone's program has a number of variables. Whether you were planning for them or not, everyone's program has a number of variables. Everyone has a frequency. Everyone has a certain proximity to failure per each exercise and per each set. Everyone has a number of volume, a number of sets that they do measured as volume, right? That they're doing per session, per exercise, per week, right? So whether you like it or not, exercise necessitates that you have multiple variables in your program, which is why it's really irrational and I would say illogical and counterproductive to try to isolate variables and say, this is the optimal volume prescription. This is the optimal proximity to failure. This is the perfect frequency. Train 3 times a week. It's great. Bench 3 days a week, bench 5 days a week. It's incoherent if we do not qualify what the rest of the program looks like, at least a little bit. Okay, if you tell someone that 20 sets per week is a ideal way to grow muscle, that may be true, and it may be true for them, but that necessitates that those sets look a certain way, that they're done with a particular load through a particular range of motion to a particular proximity to failure. And I'll tell you what, it makes sense at the very least from the big picture standpoint. The lower your effort is on each set, the more sets you can handle total in a given session and in a given week. So at a certain point, if you're chasing having a high amount of volume, it will necessitate that you have to work less hard on a set per set basis. That doesn't mean it's measurably bad to do 10 sets at RPE 5 instead of 5 sets at RPE 10. I don't know that there's a massive difference between those two things. I prefer to push myself closer to 10 than 5. I think it's more enjoyable. I think training demands a certain mindset where you embrace intensity, where you embrace the challenge. You go to that zone that's uncomfortable, where on a squat, a front squat, on the leg press, on a deadlift, you want it to stop multiple reps ago because that little voice in the back of your head says, I'd rather sit on the couch and eat chips and play video games and watch Netflix instead of doing this hard thing. And that's when you kick into that mode where you're like, I'm going to do the hard thing. I'm going to take it to that zone that's very uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you have to fail, literally, or go to RPE 9.5 or RPE 11 every single set, every single session. But I think there's great value in pushing yourself hard. Now, that being said, going back to the title of today's video, total effort is the driver of progress. So 2 people can be pushing themselves very hard with very different prescriptions of variables across the board. But the common factor between people who succeed in training in the long term and having dramatic changes to their body and their physique, they both work very hard. And I'm trying not to be too generic, and I really want to qualify my statements, but guys, at the end of the day, you need to push yourself. You need to push it hard. You need to want to go to the gym. You need to have a spark of passion in you for lifting, right? Ben the Barman, Steve Shaw is going to talk about this too. You need to have a little bit of a passion for this, right? If you don't go to bed and think about that PR that you're planning to hit tomorrow and you're not a little bit nervous and excited about it, there's a problem. You should be in love with lifting, right? Obviously, love can be fleeting, right? Same thing with motivation. But this stuff isn't just about robotic numbers and charts and studies. There's an actual passion for lifting. You need to push yourself hard. It's not about whether failure is best or failure is a terrible idea or dangerous or not. It isn't about whether you do 10 sets or 15. It's about whether or not you have a passion for lifting in the first place. And when you go into the gym, are you in love with what you're doing? And on the days where you really don't want to do it, do you have, yes, the discipline, that robotic side to say, these numbers will happen. I don't have a choice. It doesn't matter that I have the sniffles today. It doesn't matter that I'm kind of tired because I underslept for any number of reasons. I'm going to get it done whether I like it or not today. And often training success does come back to, it's punching in a ticket. You're going to work, you're getting it done. But that being said, you're supposed to like your program. In fact, you should love your program. You should be excited to hit personal bests. You should be excited to check in and measure your limbs, right? As your arms get bigger, your thighs get bigger. That should be an exciting process. Obviously, you can't just be doing things based on passion and motivation, but you also shouldn't just be thinking about studies and numbers and charts and what's optimal and what's not. That's really boring and that's lame. And you can't really spark passion for lifting just by thinking about numbers, okay? The common factor between people who get results, even when they have vastly different programs, is that they push themselves. Okay, total effort. Let me give you a quick example. One person can do a particular exercise and do 3 sets of 20 with the same weight. Another person could do 4 sets of 15. Are you really telling me it's a measurably different stimulus to do 4 sets of 15, which gives you 60 reps, versus 3 sets of 20, which gives you 60 reps? Obviously, if they have the same strength capacity, they have the same strength level, yeah, the person who does 4 sets of 15 is holding back more, but the way they make up for the fact that they're holding back more per set is reflected in the fact that they do more sets, or it's compensated by the fact that they're doing more sets, and that could be reflected by their progress. I'm convinced that the same tonnage through the same range of motion with the same tempo and the same standard of quality is equal. You cannot cheat work. You cannot cheat work with your split, with your frequency, with your volume. There's only so much work that you can handle within a period of time, let's say a week, right? We organize our lives around weeks. It just makes sense. It's what's always been done and probably will always be done by the majority of people. We think in terms of weeks. That's totally normal, okay? So there's only so much you can handle in a week. You cannot divide that total recovery, right? Your total recovery resources, you cannot magically divide it so that you can do more work. You need to push yourself and experiment to see where those limits are. You don't have to go beyond the limits. You don't even have to go exactly precisely to the point of the limits each and every single session, each and every single week. But if this is the zone where you're getting no results and this is the maximal amount you can recover from, you need to be closer, consistently closer to your maximum, much closer than you are to that minimum if you want serious gains. If you just want to get a little bit better shape and you don't have a passion for lifting, sure, you can be somewhere in that middle zone where it's certainly easy to recover and just occasionally you try and lift a heavier weight and you're just lifting because you think it's good for your health, you're going to live longer, have more energy for work, playing with your kids, make some joint pains go away. Those are totally valid reasons to lift. And so that middle zone is probably just fine. But if you want to get serious about lifting, you want to get as strong as possible, you want to get as big as possible, you need to pursue the upper ends of the limits. And what the variables represent are options for you to pursue. Which route are you going to increase your total effort? If you would like to push yourself harder via volume measured in sets, then try adding more sets to the same exercises that you know work for you because they feel good and you've already seen results. In other words, a higher dosage of something that already works. You could also try and do it more frequently. But when you do it more frequently, objectively, it will be the case that you're accumulating more volume, unless you're doing less volume per session in order to compensate for that frequency. But in my opinion, that would defeat the purpose. Usually frequency is a means for people to accumulate more volume rather than just cramming it into the same, let's say 1 session per week or 2 sessions per week. So each variable in the program represents an avenue by which you can push yourself, right? You can stimulate progress. Okay, that going back to that example of 3 by 20 versus 4 by 15, if you have limited home gym equipment, you're doing biceps curls, 20 pounds, 3 sets of 20 reps. What you can do to make it harder, you could do 4 sets of 16. That's 64 reps versus 60. That is a volume progression. You don't have to jump from 3 sets of 20 to 4 sets of 20 and hope you can recover from it. So rather than a 20 rep increase total, a 4 rep increase is probably far more sustainable, right? See how that worked out? See how the math worked out there? Okay, that's what training is about. Small little metrics that reflect a total increase in effort over time. And from the big picture standpoint, you should be using up more of your potential than not. You should be using up most of what you can recover from and handle if you want serious gains. There is no perfect proximity to failure. There is no perfect frequency. There's no perfect split. There's no perfect range of motion. Okay, people talk about stretch versus contractions. They're lost in the sauce. Okay, don't expect science to cheat you to be passionate about lifting and to use metrics as a means of making yourself uncomfortable and sweaty and push yourself hard. That's what it comes down to, guys. Just go in, get a hard workout. Yes, you need to track it. Yes, you need to focus on rep quality. Yes, you should think about your variables, but what they represent are inputs in a system for you to push yourself. All right, so in order to make sense of it, you have to stop trying to isolate each variable and stop overthinking what each one represents. Okay, I hope that helps, guys. I had to get that little bit of a rant off my chest. Sam, if you saw this video, I hope you enjoyed it. I try to articulate my messages as clear as possible without sounding like a barbarian. Yes, this is Smart Simple Fit. We try and keep things as simple as possible on this channel, and when I need to qualify statements, I will. But I certainly will not be referring to studies anytime soon. All right, that's all I've got for you guys. If you enjoyed today's video, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.